What's up with it, world? It's your boy CBJ. You are tuned into the Know It All Sports podcast with my co-host.
This is the man, the myth, the legend. Call me Coach Rudy. Call me Psycho. Call me Priest. Just call me Hey You if you need to.
All right. And we are back with another week. We got some fun topics to talk about. We're going to start out with Hard Knocks. Coach Rudy obviously is not a fan of the Hard Knocks, as he said on the last episode. If you haven't checked it out, please.
Hold on. Let me let you know. On Hard Knocks, yeah, I didn't watch it.
So, I did hear before I watched it, I was expecting this to be heavy on CeeDee Lamb. And they talked about CeeDee Lamb, but they didn't really make it real heavy on CeeDee Lamb. Like, they spent more time on Micah Parsons last week than they did this week. But going up forward, it was an interesting transition from last week.
They were talking about Zeke's gooch, right?
They did talk about Zeke's gooch because that's how they started the episode off. Apparently,
see, just because I don't watch it, don't mean I don't know the topics of it.
He was complaining about how it felt like it was rubbing, so he asked for some baby powder.
Yeah,
and he said, "If I fart, you're gonna just see a cloud of dust."
And this is why I don't watch it.
That makes it too real.
Yeah, I don't want to know all this about these fellas.
Well, one thing, if you guys don't know, I'm from St. Louis, and I say if there's anything St. Louis can produce, it's people that can run, and, well, Zeke's proof of that. So, and if you've ever ran and caught diaper rash, you know that shit ain't no fun. But
you've had diaper rash?
Well,
dude, you ain't even...
That's what they
you
call it.
You too old for it, bro.
That's what they call it, man. That shit
I'm
is
just saying,
not
man,
no fun.
You're too old for that. Boxers briefs or boxer briefs, man.
No, buddy. That's horrible.
Diapers.
Horrible in the summertime. But, you ain't got time. Like, if you're playing football, man, you don't got time to run to the bathroom.
I've never worn diapers since I was a baby.
Well,
maybe I needed to at times, but I didn't.
Anyways, so this episode, it was still kind of, it was more about the rookies as it should be. It's about the new talent that they're working with. It did talk on CeeDee Lamb about, last year he had these moments of, there's a lot of speculation on how well he was going to produce, and so they're hoping that this season's going to pick up for him.
Definitely should.
And that's really the most that they did as far as for that. They did touch on Dak and his issues with his arm and things like that, but they didn't really make it seem like it was a big deal. They definitely just kind of glanced over
Well, after the episode, they ended up saying his arm is okay. So he's cleared, but Coach McCarthy isn't wanting to play him in the preseason.
Yeah, he was still running through the drills. So it's really interesting in that aspect of, like, you're running the play, but you're not actually throwing. So he's still doing the count. He'll get the ball from the center, but then he doesn't throw it. He just kind of takes a couple steps back, looks at who he wants to throw it to, and then that's kind of his routine. He did take some time with what's the backup? Do you know his name? I don't know.
Gilbert.
Oh, I don't know. It wasn't the redheaded guy. It was the other guy, the one that played a lot of the game.
Garrett Gilbert.
Yeah. So he did tell him he needed to work on his swag because he didn't really have any, like, personality in his game. So he was like, you need to wear a hoodie or something. Like, you see how everyone else is wearing a hoodie? You need a hoodie. And he was like, so I'm going to take a page out of Dak Prescott's hoodie, and I'm going to wear this from now on. So he did start wearing that. But I found that interesting, just that he kind of did say that he needed to work with him a little bit. And I don't know if that's signs that that's who they're wanting to carry on as a backup from here on out.
Well, that's the idea. He is noted and listed to be the second-string quarterback at the time. Right now,
Cooper,
the team isn't interested in getting an experienced backup from around the league. So they're going with Garrett as of right now.
Yeah, so they spent a lot of time on him wanting to secure his backup position. They also spent a lot of time on what's his name, Kamara. He's a defensive player. Yeah, he's a defensive player. He's not a rookie that's been on another. He didn't play college ball, so he didn't come in from college. He's coming off the trying out or whatever. I don't know how he got put on the team, but he's not actually been drafted, is what I was trying to say. So he's really working hard, and I found like that kind of upsetting because his mom and his parents haven't seen him play.
You're not talking about Acuna, are you?
No, it's Kamara.
Okay.
Yeah, he I forget where he's like what. He's from Arizona. Kamara came from Arizona, but his parents haven't seen him play pro football yet. So he made the practice team last year, but he's trying to secure a spot on the team this year. He works really hard. Storyline makes you root for him. Like you really want to hope that he makes it to the team. But he got a big play this past week, but it didn't count because there was some sort of flag on the play, so they had to pull it back. But he had forced a fumble or some sort of interception or something like that they called back because of a flag on the play. But those were pretty much who they kind of focused on. And obviously, Micah Parsons' mom was in there, and she was saying how he wanted more game time, and they were speculating on how much he was actually getting into this. So overall, they did show that like the vets still, even though they're not playing, that their spots are guaranteed because they said specifically Elliott's spot is guaranteed. They were saying how he still was there to talk. You know, he's very happy to see them fight for their positions, and he's there to help them with whatever he can. So it was interesting. Again, perspectives, which you see how they weave it all together. But moving on from the Hard Knocks.
What? You mean it wasn't more interesting than that? See, that was my problem with it. That the show, for me, gives a lot of stories, but doesn't give true insight, in my opinion, because it's more stories about, I don't know, I guess personal lives or whatever, and not as much about
the actual
game. Yeah. And that's why I'm not interested.
They did talk about one of the coaches that's there. He played for the Europe NFL team.
NFL Europe?
Yeah. Said how he played like 4 or 5 seasons over there, and then he coached at, I forget what other team he coached for. I think it was the Falcons. I could be wrong on that. But he coached for another team, and then now he's the defensive coach now. And he's got an accent, and obviously his players make fun of him.
He doesn't have a true accent. It was a gimmick. They made him talk like that.
Oh, well. His players make fun of him. See, I don't even
watch it, and I know what's up. All right, well, let's move forward.
His players make fun of him for his accent, nonetheless.
The accent that was fake, that's why.
It doesn't matter.
It was just for the show.
Shut up. Nobody asked you.
I don't want to.
You don't even watch the show. You don't know.
It's all right. I listen. I listen to the tweeter.
I don't watch the show, but I listen to it. I just let it play.
I listen to the tweeter. I listen to what's being said.
Yeah.
All right. Well, look. Let's go ahead and move on to Max Kellerman getting fired, but not fired.
He's not getting fired. He's staying with ESPN. But yes, I find this interesting. As somebody that's one of my 2 shows that I watch as far as for sports is Undisputed and First Take. And to see Max Kellerman leave, I find it interesting because I don't know how Stephen A. carries on without him.
Because Max Kellerman's not good.
Well,
Max Kellerman knows boxing.
And that's why I say, like, when he came along, that's what I was like, he's great for boxing. Outside of that, he doesn't know shit about shit.
No, and you can hear it in his speech, in his takes, in what he says about every other sport. He has no clue what he's talking about.
Right.
So, for me, him leaving is long overdue.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised. Like, I'm more surprised about why it happened. So, from my understanding, what happened is, I guess Skip's contract was up at Fox, so he was back up on the market, and Stephen A. said, hey, why don't you come back? We'll get the show back. And that was the cause for Max Kellerman. We're like, well, fuck this. Like, I've been here the last 4 or 5 years, and you know, you're going to go back to the old guy. So he's still going to stay with ESPN, but it's more of like, I'm a little bit salty at you even entertain the idea of going back to your old co-host.
Well, you know what's funny about that? Me just going on and on about Max Kellerman not having any skins on the wall, know anything about sports.
Yeah.
Skip Bayless don't either. Look,
yeah, but they have a
with,
they have a good chemistry of keeping people
yeah,
tuned in
the
for
back
the
and
entertainment.
forth.
Yeah,
It was a ratings getter.
yeah,
But the truth is, there's a reason why Skip Bayless has no credibility with major media
right.
because he's not credible.
One thing I know about Skip is that I fucking hate Skip. Funny thing is, I actually don't like either one of them. If I'm really being honest, like Stephen A. gets on my nerves because he likes to he knows how to
the Cowboys.
He definitely pushes the right buttons. Whereas, like, I think if I ever made it on that show, I might punch him in the mouth just because he knows how to troll you and get you worked up.
Do you remember Rocky V?
Yes.
And the scene at the end where the promoter says, "If you
Touch
touch
me,
me, I'll sue you." Yeah, that would be Stephen A.
For sure. 100%. I have no doubt in my mind. He trolls you to that moment of...
Touch me, I'll sue.
Yeah.
Touch me, I'll
So,
sue.
something else I found out recently because of Drink Champs that apparently he started out in hip-hop, which I didn't know that.
Who, Stephen A.?
Yeah. He was a radio DJ on Hot 97 or whatever Hot 97 was before they were Hot 97. He started out as a hip-hop correspondent on there, but he was always into sports. Like, he got that job because he used to write articles in the newspaper for Philly, and then they gave him
He
the
was
job.
a journalist.
Yeah.
He's a legit journalist.
Yeah.
Or was a legit journalist.
He was on Miss Jones' morning show, apparently, and then he went from there to ESPN. I didn't know that. I knew that he did have some radio, but I just assumed that it was always sports related before.
So what do you think about Kellerman?
So the Kellerman situation, I'm just curious to see. Apparently, and this is before me paying attention to First Take, the old format used to be was revolving co-host or like different little gimmicks to kind of keep each episode, and that's kind of what they're going to go back to
until they solidify who's going to be there.
They're supposed to be their new format. So that's if you guys can't see me, my quote's on. It's supposed to be the new format. I don't know if that's going to be a long-lasting thing or if they're going to keep that as we're going to try this out until we decide, nope, go back to another co-host.
Well, it could also be they don't want to pay anybody. ESPN's been hurting for cash, so to speak. Look, they're owned by Disney. They're not
Disney?
really hurting for cash.
Disney's
but comparatively
not putting money behind them. They want them to do their...
because comparatively speaking to what they were,
right,
they are not there anymore.
Yeah.
I must say it's pretty much since Stuart Scott died that they've been going downhill. It wasn't his death that led to it, but it was around that time period where they had to start cutting their big talent who were now...
Was he the driving force?
No, but it was just that time period where the big talent were more famous than the channel.
Right.
And so as they started cutting those guys to keep their profit lines where they wanted them to be, they have a tendency of once somebody gets too big, they let them go. Once somebody has a real demand for finances, they say, all right, we can't afford you, and bye.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how they care. Because, like, honestly, I think I'm going to be bored with the show without, like, someone to bounce off unless they have entertaining people to come in each week. Or because I'm going to assume it's going to have to be each week. Because they can't have somebody every day.
I don't watch it most of the time because Max Kellerman and Stephen A. get on my nerves. I'm more likely to watch it when one of the two is not there because I prefer the special guest people versus them two because I already know what they're going to say.
So it depends on the topic. If they start talking, this is when I watch it. I watch whenever there's a special boxing event because, as you said, Max Kellerman knows his boxing. And I can, get behind what he's at least debating whenever he's on there. And then even with Undisputed, whenever they do that, I kind of pay attention to Skip when he talks about boxing because he's not as advanced as Kellerman, but he does at least know better than Stephen A. in boxing. So I at least listen to their takes, even though I disagree with who they predict often. Not Kellerman. Kellerman's pretty good at, like, whenever he says who's going to win, I think he's pretty solid. But
I think I prefer Shannon Sharp over Skip Bayless on their show. as far as who I'm listening to. If I listen, I really stay away from that show.
Yeah.
I will sometimes look up takes, but I won't listen to Skip because he's full of it.
Yeah, Skip can definitely phone it in. Like he can definitely phone it in and just trash talk just to be like. He doesn't have a stance that's solid. Like he's always flip flopping. That's actually my problem with him. Is 1 minute he'll praise a team for being so good at this or that, and then the next minute he's berating them. And it's far different from being objective of saying that they've had a bad game or whatever. And that's what he tries to stand on. Like, no, I'm not saying that they're. I'm changing my opinion based on this game.
I like it when they call him out. Did you see how the co-host called him out the other day because he was making fun of one of the coaches for being fat?
No, I didn't hear that.
Oh, it was awesome. So he's berating one of the football coaches, one of the pro coaches. I can't remember which one. And he's talking about him pretty much the way he looks, his appearance.
Right.
And the female host, and I can't remember her name because I wasn't even planning on bringing up this subject, she calls him out and says, look, I ain't got a problem with his weight, and pretty much turns it around on Skip. Skip gets mad, says something back to her, and she stands up for herself and puts him back in his place. And then he's calling for a commercial because he got his feelings hurt.
That's funny because that's again, he can dish it out, but he definitely does not like it to be brought back to him.
You remember when Jalen Rose called him out for sucking on high school basketball?
That's what I think about often whenever he gets put in his place. Yeah, so it's actually kind of funny, though, because, his wife is Molly, right?
Jalen Rose's?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyways.
He met her there, and yeah.
Yeah, so anyways, moving on. I will just leave it on. I am interested to see how the show does without it. If they just eventually just come up with a new segment or whatever they plan on doing with that. But
Pac-Man.
Back to the boxing topic.
Pac-Man.
As you guys know, I'm big into boxing, and
Pac-Man.
Manny Pacquiao has a fight coming up this weekend, and he has stated that he plans on trying to knock out his backup fighter that he is fighting because he thinks that he is undeserving of the title that he currently holds, because back in 2019 Pacquiao won that Thurman fight and he was stripped of the title because he wasn't fighting in that division. So because he wasn't fighting, how do you say his name?
Yordenis or something.
Yordenis. I'm sorry for butchering your name. Not very good Latino of me to butcher another Latino's name, but
I don't have your name in front of me. That's why.
But anyways, Yordenis Ugas, he's the backup fighter since he cannot fight Earl Spence, and he has stated that he plans on knocking him out because he does not like that he got the title without actually fighting the champion to get it. Do you have a take on like a fighter getting a vacated belt?
Yordenis.
Yes, what you said. Do you have a problem with a fighter getting a vacant title and calling champ, or do you think they have to beat the champ to be the champ?
Well, I will put it like this. In the idea of Homer Simpson, the two greatest words in the American language are default. So, with me believing in Homer, I have no qualms with somebody picking up the vacant title. Somebody needs it. I'm not advocating for them to be stripping people, but at the same time, if you're not fighting to defend it, I understand you got other weight classes, right. But if you can't handle it, then you shouldn't have it.
Right.
That said, I do like the concept that Ric Flair put out there that you got to beat the champ to be the champ. This gives Pac-Man a chance to prove himself. I think more so than anything, he's just trying to actually build this into something that people want to watch.
Yeah, you're probably not wrong with that. I do think that seeing him say it, I'm actually thinking he's a bit ambitious. Not to say that he doesn't have knockout power. A fighter always has a punt. Yeah, he's got a fighter's chance still. But
you mean a puncher's chance?
Yes. You son of a... You're lucky you're my aunt's kid, otherwise I'd say something.
Never stopped you before, boy.
Yeah,
look, I would like to say that It's cool that Pac-Man is feeling like he has knockouts left in him to dish out.
Very true.
And it would be awesome if he did.
If he does, like, that's fucking awesome.
But I'm going to hold back on the idea that it's actually going to happen.
I concur with the idea that, like, yeah, that you're really pushing the idea. But, I mean, good for you if you do. You know, more power to you if you do. I do want to say that it is interesting to see him just... he's not one to really trash talk a whole lot. He's usually...
Yeah, it's very seldom that he does... Now, he's been fighting long enough, you can remember multiple instances of him doing it.
Yeah.
But generally, he's a respectful fighter of his opponents, gives them credit, says things like that.
Especially, like, he very much leans into his religious beliefs, so he's very much like, he doesn't like to do a lot of mudslinging. Yeah. But furthering into the whole Pac-Man saga, he says that he would like to knock out Ugas moving forward and then get into another fight with Floyd Mayweather.
Why not? I mean, if Floyd could come out to fight a YouTuber, then why can't he come out to get another shot at Pac-Man? The problem is Floyd is afraid of losing.
This is true. I don't see him coming back for a actual official boxing match. Another exhibition fight. I don't know
because Floyd's a chump.
I don't see Pac-Man going for exhibition, but no, he probably would because he's more of like I just got to prove my point. But
Floyd's a chump. Floyd is one of the greater boxers of this generation. I'm not going to say of all time. I'm going to say of this generation.
I will say,
and I mean boxers. I don't mean fighters. I don't mean. Anything other than boxer. He is a good boxer, a great boxer in this generation. I take issue, rather, with his personal assessment of thinking that he is the best because he got to a 50-0 record when there were fighters like Julio Cesar Chavez
who
got 90 fights in before they got a loss.
Well, he went 101 before he caught a loss. He went 89 before he caught his first draw.
Yeah. So, but that said, there was a lot of boxers that predate him.
And he beat a Mayweather twice in that time. Not saying nothing, I'm just saying.
But there's a lot of boxers that predate him that put up more than 50 fights.
Yeah.
In wins.
His whole thing was he was chasing Rocky Marciano's record of a perfect record of 50-0.
Yeah, but that's not the same.
Even if you're just looking at the record, like the thing about how many of those were knockouts by Rocky versus like you just won 50 fights, like
yeah. Well, look, there's something to be said to being a boxing purist, but then at the same time, when we look at Rocky did it in like 9 years.
Yes.
So you get all those fights in a shorter time period than what Floyd did. So it means more, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think one of the biggest feats in boxing, if we're talking boxing records, like Mike Tyson's first year pro was 11 fights, 11 knockouts. Like, do you know how absurd? Like, people don't fight. They fight 3 fights at most a year, typically these days. And this man
generally it's 2 now.
Generally it's 1 to 2 a year is what you're going to get.
As far as once you've at least established your name.
Yeah, and he took 11 fights to become the champion. He got his champion fight on his 12th fight. But nonetheless, like, do you just let that sink in? 11 fights.
Once a month.
Yeah. The only reason why he didn't get 12 fights in that first year, I think it was something like he took a 6-week break in between one fight, or it was like 2 weeks, or 2 fights in particular. It was like a 5-week and a 5-week, and that's what threw off So,
and he was able to do that because he wasn't getting hit. You know what's funny?
Well, yeah, because I think it could all together for that first year, the fight had lasted not even 30 minutes.
Yeah, he might have gotten one full fight.
Yeah, just barely past the full round. I think most of those fights were like 90 seconds or less.
No, it wasn't all first rounders, but
in the first year. I'm pretty sure most of those were like they were all knockouts. It don't matter. Yeah, they were all knockouts.
Yeah, but it's different between all first round. But either way, with it, when we look at what boxers of yesteryear did versus what Floyd did, they were much more impressive.
Yes.
Because of those circumstances. Not just because
it wasn't the record. He took the record as like that's what it was.
Yeah, that was his self-proclaimed title or reason to believe that he's the best.
Yeah. But like when we look at the greats, like what made them great, like when you look at Muhammad Ali, like sure, he took losses, but what makes him actually great is the fact that he had so much time in between when he was the champion and it got stripped of his belt to come back and win again.
6 years in between, and
that's a hard thing to come back and do. When you look at again, as we said, Tyson, 11 fights in 1 year and continue. Like he didn't slow down. He would fight however many times he felt like fighting in a year. It wasn't like, oh, I'm only gonna do 2 this year. Like he fought give me a fight. You're paying me millions of dollars. I'll continue to beat anybody until
to really show how cold you are.
Right. Sugar. My biggest thing about him was he was jumping up and down weight classes. He fought heavyweights. He fought he didn't necessarily change his weight. He just said, if you want to be champion, I want to beat you. He was jumping middleweight, lightweight, heavyweight. Like he was fighting anybody and everybody.
You just named a handful, and there's so many more.
Right.
And that was the difference with those guys. Now there's going to be a lot of reasoning that people throw out as to why they had to do that. The money wasn't as grand and stuff like that. I will say this though, $1 million back then in the 70s, 60s, 80s
or before,
was not the same as $1 million today. That was kind of like getting a 10, 15, $20 million payday.
Right.
For what stuff cost back then. Now
unfortunately, they just signed really bad deals with their promoters and managers, and that's really what
and marketing has taken it to a different level. The pay-per-views, things like that, before it was on ABC, NBC, whatever have you. But when you look at those fighters, they were proving it game in, game out. They would take a lesser fight on occasion.
Who's a amazing boxer, if you ever look into his history, is Joe Louis. Like, aside from, obviously, he's one of the greatest boxers to ever be a pro fighter, but if you ever look into it, like, look at his military career boxing. Like, that man had fought, like, 500 fights in his career, if you add up amateur, pro, and his military record. Like, that man fought hella fights.
So when I call out Floyd, would Floyd beat me in a boxing match? Yeah, because he can outbox me. You know?
He definitely can outrun you.
Is he going to beat me in a fight? Never. Not on his best day. Keep in mind, I'm 37, 38. I don't know how old I am. And how old is he?
He's
44?
Yeah, he's about 45.
So there's a 7-8 year difference between him and I. And I do way more than him. I can't punch as hard as him. I wouldn't imagine. But I ain't going to try to box him. I'll just break his neck.
The thing that in the street fights that he's gotten into, he's hid behind his bodyguards, And I don't know if it's true, but T.I. says he touched him. I don't have no reason not to believe T.I. for fighting him. So there's that. But moving on from Pacquiao and Kellerman and Hard Knocks, let's move on.
All right, let's make some people mad.
No, I agree with the people. They're all right.
But we're already talking, so we got to make them mad.
All right.
All right. So look, a few weeks ago we were talking about who's a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. So I finally went ahead and made my list, my top 10 list, and I went 15 deep. What? That means I kept adding people, but beyond 10, so I could I went 15 deep, and you might say 16 because my 15th picks are tied for 15th. Different styles, but I think you can flip them either way. Same thing that you're going to get from them.
Right.
So I'm going to start with 15. I got Kyler Murray and Baker Mayfield tied for 15.
Okay.
So if you wanted to separate it, one's 15, one's 16. But that's who I have. on my list for the top quarterbacks.
Okay, since we're going to go through your list, and I'm going to make my comments along the way, because I didn't make a list. I just seen the list. But going off of your list, I know you're putting Kyler and Baker Mayfield down at the bottom of this.
Of course.
I personally, and it's only because of the controversy, and I know that we had discussed off the air about we're talking over the next 3 seasons or over a contract term.
So when I put this together, I was thinking in a 3-year span. A lot of people want to say, who would you take in one game or one season? I think more realistically, who would you take for a 3-year span?
Which is about a contract,
yeah. Yeah. So with that said, this is where my list is.
Yeah.
And I would have Kyler Murray or Baker Mayfield in the middle of the pack.
As being the precursor to what I'm about to say, I would move Deshaun down to there.
Deshaun who?
Deshaun Watson.
Why?
And I'm getting there. I would move him down to the bottom, and it's only because of the controversy, and we're still up in the air on where he's going to be. Now, if I had a team that was solid on picking him up, I might feel otherwise, but because we're still like
until he is suspended, I'm assuming he's playing.
Yes.
So because of that,
okay,
I got to roll with him still kind of high.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I would put him down low because of.
So you were saying that you would have Deshaun Watson in the 15, 16 range?
Yes, because of that. Because I don't know where he's going to land. Like if I was more confident in where he was going,
I don't care about where they would land. No, we're not making it. I'm saying if I'm building a team, this is who I would go for.
I understand what you're saying. I'm saying for me personally, that's where I'm sitting. So fuck what you're saying.
But that don't make sense.
Moving forward.
He still don't make sense. All right. So at 14, I got Kirk Cousins.
Kirk Cousins at 14, I'm not necessarily mad at it. Even with if you got your last 2 there, I would put Kirk Cousins underneath them. But again, my bias, I don't like Kirk Cousins.
I don't like Kirk Cousins either. The only reason I have him above Kyler Murray and Baker Mayfield is because they're still on the younger side. So Kirk Cousins, I know what I'm getting from him. I still don't know what I'm getting from Kyler and Baker. Kyler's looking like he's on the ascent, and Baker looks like he's showing what he can be, but he is also coming off of a big injury.
So I would honestly put Kyler probably at like 11 or 12 on this list.
Well, I got Derek Carr at 13, Justin Herbert at 12, and Tom Brady at 11.
Yeah, so Carr's okay where he is, I guess. Justin, what's his name? Herbert? Yeah, I could bump him down. I could bump Tom Brady up or down.
Herbert is really good, but it was only for 1 year. So that's why I got him there.
So that's what, like I said, I could bump him and just... And the idea, like, you still got more to prove. Baker, I like Baker, but again, he's not been consistent enough.
You like Baker more than I do.
Yeah, but he still. I like Baker, but I don't like him as much as I like Kyler. I think Kyler's gonna have I think he's more on a better trajectory.
So that is my 11 through 15. Tom Brady, Herbert, Carr, Kirk Cousins, Kyler Murray, Baker Mayfield tied. Those 2 are tied for 15. Now when we get into the top 10, I got Matt Ryan at 10. I know Matt Ryan's old, and I know he's not great, but I still would pick him over Tom Brady for 3 seasons because I'm still betting on Tom Brady breaking. He wasn't good to start the season last year. He wasn't good the season before to start the season. He comes through towards the end of the season.
Yeah.
And so long as he's coming through, that's what matters. But the last few years, he has struggled early on.
As I said in previous episodes, he does take a while more. The older he gets, the longer it takes for him to get started. You have to kind of slap him around a little bit before he finally turns up. But if I were to, I mean, I'm not mad at Matt Ryan being at 10, but I'd probably switch him and Josh Allen at 9 and 10.
Yeah, I got Josh Allen at 9.
Ryan Tannehill, to me, like you have him at 8.
I have him at 8, yeah.
I'd probably put him at 6 personally.
Yeah, but you don't like Deshaun Watson. I got Lamar Jackson.
Well, as I said, I put him around the end.
Yeah.
So
I
him
got
at 6.
Lamar Jackson at 7, Deshaun Watson at 6. So with my 6 through 10, I got Lamar Jackson, Ryan Tannehill, or Deshaun Watson, sorry, at 6. Lamar Jackson at 7, Ryan Tannehill at 8, Josh Allen at 9, Matt Ryan at 10. So that's my second tier of guys.
Right.
So my first tier of quarterbacks, I'll just go from the top. Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, Matt Stafford, Dak Prescott, and Russell Wilson.
So your top tier, honestly, the only real one that I would move on that, because I think it's pretty solid, is Stafford. I think Stafford would be 5 for me. And I think everyone else just shifts up, except for Rodgers. He could be 3, he could be 2 to me.
So I got Baker Mayfield at 15. I mentioned his injury, and yet I still got Matt Stafford and Dak Prescott at 3 and 4. And both of them are recently coming off of injuries. The reason I have them there is because when they're healthy, Matt Stafford is sick. And Dak Prescott is as consistent of a player as you're going to get. So with them at 3 and 4, that's why they're up there. Even though you could say, well, why would you have Baker at 15? Because I also don't think Baker's very good yet. I think he's the middle of a road quarterback. If I have him on a team, I can win with him. I don't think he's going to make me win. I think I can win with him, though.
Okay.
And it's these top tier guys, these top 5, that are going to make me win.
I can see that.
So, and somebody might look at Matt Stafford and say, well, when did he make his Detroit team win? His Detroit teams were poorly coached, had poor defenses. He had weapons, and he put up numbers, and sometimes he got injured. So they were winning because of him. I expect Detroit to crash this year.
Well, we'll see. It's interesting because I don't think highly of Goff. I don't think highly of Detroit in itself.
I fear that Goff's going to get hurt.
But I'm curious to see because they just swapped these quarterbacks.
Yeah.
I'm kind of curious to see who's going to flourish and who's going to fall. I personally am a fan of Stafford. Anytime they've talked about him possibly hitting the market, as we all know, I'm not sold on Dak. I've always thought, like, I'd be okay with Stafford coming to Dallas. But a lot of times, any quarterback that gets on the market, I'm often like, I'd be okay with him in Dallas. So that being said, I like Stafford. Actually, Stafford is probably one of the last newer people that makes me a little bit nervous as far as for arm potential. Like, the fact that he throws those 50-50 balls and you don't really know. Like, if he's got a receiver that can catch it, he makes me a little bit nervous.
Stafford?
Yes.
Stafford can put it on a dime, man.
That's what I'm saying. Like, he's of the newer because I know he's been in the league a little bit for a while now, but of the newer, because as we were saying, like the Rodgers is like the dying of a certain era.
Rodgers is 37. Yeah.
And he's what, 5 years younger than him, 6 years.
Yeah, something like that.
So he's still he's just of a different generation as far as for the quarterbacks, like, and that's what I'm saying. He's the in between the new one, the Patrick Mahomes and the Aaron Rodgers. So he's the one, he's the Aaron Rodgers to what's the Peyton Manning's, like when Peyton left, there was the Aaron Rodgers.
That in between. Yeah. So I put this list together, and I wanted to talk about these quarterbacks because we're in the middle of the preseason. Last week we had the Cowboys' second preseason game. We had one injury with it, Neville Gallimore, one notable injury anyways. And outside of that, it's been a pretty quiet week for football. There's been other topics that have come up in sports. I think a lot of them have been forced. Yeah. But for me, I was like, it's always good to make a list. People like lists. People like argue
to debate
them.
Yeah, people like to debate, who's who and why they should be higher or more respected. I think for anything with me or you, we pretty much do a good job of not being overly biased, like, and if we are being overly biased, we admit
to it.
Yeah. We come out like, look, I like this guy personally, so I put them here for this reason.
I get it if you don't, but I do.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's, I think, for anything, if you guys listen to us or anyone that ever hears us, like, you got to at least appreciate the fact that we can point out, like, when we're flat out being like, no, this is flat out, this is my guy for this reason.
Yeah. So for me, this list, Patrick Mahomes, obviously, he'd be the first guy that I would take. I think he's a Hall of Famer in waiting, so long as he don't get injured. And even if he did get injured, what he's already done, he might make the list.
He's definitely on a trajectory of being there. And I wouldn't be, even if he was to retire tomorrow, I wouldn't be surprised in 15, 20 years they say, like, you know what, he's deserving of being in the Hall of Fame because of
these voters are more likely to take somebody who's played just a handful of seasons than voters of 20 years ago.
How many Super Bowls did Eli get?
Eli won 2.
He
played 2, won 2. He'll get in the Hall of Fame. I don't think he deserves it. He wasn't a good quarterback, man.
I'm not saying that. I don't know. He was
not his brother.
He wasn't his brother. I won't say that he was even close to what his brother was.
But his brother was on a whole other level. But I'm just saying he wasn't a good quarterback. He was an average quarterback. He put up some big numbers in a handful of seasons.
Yeah.
One thing that sticks with me when we talk about the Hall of Fame is something that Michael Irvin said some years ago. He said something to the effect of, there's a reason why there's individual season awards.
Right.
And that's to recognize the players that did good for a season, 2 seasons.
Yeah.
The Hall of Fame should be for someone who was excellent for a vast majority of their career.
Okay. I can see that. That argument makes sense. It's unfortunate. It's not unfortunate. It makes it more deserving when you get into those. I think we get caught up in like, oh, so-and-so got an award for this or so-and-so got an award for that. But like because I'm a music person, when people talk about like, oh, I got an award for, a Grammy for this or that, I know a lot of people take that Grammy as like, oh, that means something. But for me, I was like, I'd always want more of like the BET or the MTV award.
Certain other recognitions.
Yeah, because they're more, in my opinion, they were more deserving by your following. The Grammys was always more about your peers voting you in. And the same thing with the Hall of Fame. Like, the Hall of Fame is more of your peers recognizing you for being as good as you are. And so I think I would probably be more happy with that. Like, that's the long-term goal. That's my lifetime achievement. It's funny because I think a lot of players, when you get into the league, your goal is to make it to a Super Bowl and win. And a lot of players obviously don't make it.
I don't even know that so many players have that anymore.
Really? I always just assume that if you're going to the NFL, your ultimate goal. But I guess there are. I don't know.
Look, man,
you can't help who you get drafted by.
So many say, "Look, man, I'm in the NFL. That's all that matters. It's a dream come true." There's a lot of people that say that, and I can't fault them for that. My whole problem is I'm very competitive.
Yeah.
So if I make it, I'm not gonna be content with just being on a team and not trying to win every week. That's a big reason why I'm not a fan of these media personnel that root for teams to tank.
Yeah.
Because as a competitor, I don't want to lose any games.
Right.
So, as a fan, I don't want my team to actively be putting themselves in a position to lose so they can get a better draft pick the next year.
Right.
I want you to build a culture of winning, and I want you to expand on that.
So, with being a competitive person, do you believe in like hitting, like, because you're a coach, you've coached teams. Do you think, when you're winning, do you say, okay, we're going to let off the gas a little bit just because we're going to be sportsmanlike, or do you think like, no, I continue to shove this in their face until?
It's not to be sportsmanlike per se. What I've done, if I'm beating somebody pretty soundly, have control of the game, I might try things that aren't as surefire in practice.
So maybe a little bit more experimental with like, hey,
Yeah.
let's put little Johnny in and see what he can do.
Not necessarily putting somebody who can't.
I want
do
my fucking
nothing.
team.
No, look, I might put my second or third string running back in so they can get some playing time. I might do that, but I'm not just gonna put somebody who can't do the job in there. So I'll put somebody in who doesn't get a chance because the starters are killing it and they're trying to take it over the top.
Right.
I'll put someone who knows what they're doing, and if you're not doing it, I'm not going to leave you in there.
I got you.
But what I've done is, by giving them those chances, I know, okay, well, it's not going to be a touchdown right now.
Right.
We might run out of time versus me putting in D, and then D goes one play, touchdown.
Right.
You know, something like that. So that's what I do.
I remember playing. I remember there's one time we were up, I don't know, 3 touchdowns. They were like, oh, we're in the fourth quarter. We're up 3 touchdowns. There's 7 minutes left. Like, how much can go wrong? So they said, all right, starters, come on out. We're going to put the second string in. And I kid you not, they let the second string in. Second string gets another touchdown. Still, all right, cool. So the coach is like, all right, well, we have enough players. We have a third string. So let's let the third string in. And their logic is we're at this point up four scores. So the defense goes out there. There's a third string. They let a touchdown happen. Like, it's cool. No big deal.
3 touchdown lead.
We're still up. No
yeah.
big deal. So then our third string offense goes out there. They fumble the ball. They get a touchdown. So now we're only up by 2
scores.
Then they do an onside kick. Recover the ball. All this to say, we beat them by 3 points because the coach decided we're up
to let off.
Yeah,
look,
and I was like, why would you do that? Like, I remember being the player mad at the coach. Like, we were winning. Why do that?
I don't let off in a way that would hurt the team.
Yeah,
I'm big on defense.
Yeah.
So my defensive philosophy is I don't want you to score.
Right.
I'm going to do everything to keep you from scoring. I might put in a weaker player or 2. I'm not switching the whole team.
That makes sense.
And if I put in a couple weaker players and they give up stuff, you best believe they're not going to stay out there.
So I had a backup player that one time, the coach was like, Juan, you look tired. Come on in, get some water, rest a little bit. Mud, go in there. Mud got blown up. One play, got blown up. Damn it, Juan, where are you?
Why aren't you in the game? Who told you could come out? Yeah.
And I was so mad. Like, I didn't even get to the cooler yet.
You're like, I literally just got off the field.
And the time it took me to get off the field and him get in, he got blown up, and then I had to go back. Like, fuck, all right.
Yeah.
At this time, I played both positions, like both sides of the field.
Both ways.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, for me, a big thing when I'm coaching is I won't necessarily keep putting up the points on you if I have a comfortable lead.
Yeah.
Look, I'm not going to tell my player to fall down before he gets to the end zone.
Right.
But you know who's got breakaway speed and who doesn't.
Right.
You know who can execute the play, but...
Yeah, I would...
And so with that, I'll tell you, there was a game where the coach was trying to pull some BS and make us forfeit because we didn't have enough players to start the minimum of it or whatever, right?
Right.
At a certain time. It was scheduling conflict, whatever. But we had the players on the way, and we had enough players to start the game, but by the rules or whatever, they were trying to screw us. Either way, with it. That game made me mad. I call a timeout with about 20 seconds left, and we already are up 2 touchdowns.
Right.
So I can get one player who hadn't scored yet a chance to score. I call the perfect play for him to hit the outside, go up, get his touchdown, so that way he could have it. Because I was like, hey, he's good enough. Normally, he would have scored in the first quarter, but now I'll give it to him now. We didn't need it.
Right.
But I was like, no, you tried to pull some BS. We pulled away, and
So here's the thing about me. Like, people think like, oh, you don't have a very competitive sportsman like energy. Here's the thing: I'm not competitive against people. I'm competitive against myself. So when I do anything, my goal is to be better than the last time I came out.
Yeah, he tries to fall asleep before he hits the bed. Right.
So
I'll beat you.
So my goal is always to, like, I don't, like, a lot of people get discouraged because so-and-so ascended faster than I did. But my thing is, like, I'm always just pushing myself. And in my mind, it's because in my mind, I'm already better than everybody else. So there's no reason for me to look at the next guy. And I don't mean that to say that I look down on other people. I just think that, like, if I have a skill that I'm good at, I'm the best defensive player. I'm the best offensive lineman. Like, so there's no one for me to compete against. Like, there's no one to look at because, like, I'm already the best. So the only thing I can do is continue to be better than the last time. And I just find that interesting. And where I'm going with this, like, do you ever seen the internet clip where the little kid, he's like running, they give him the ball, and he's supposed to like make his first touchdown ever, and he's like,
and then someone lights him up
just out of nowhere? That's me. Like, I'd be that person that just comes out of nowhere. Like, we were letting him win. Like, no, well, we were.
You're like, that's not what you told me, coach.
Yeah,
you said put a helmet on him until the whistle blows.
Yeah,
I didn't hear no whistle. Yeah.
I seen everyone standing around, and I was like, what the fuck? You're going to let him go? Like, no.
Definitely. I, as a coach, I am nicer. It don't sound like I am, but I'm nicer against my opponent than I am as a player. As a player, I'm talking trash.
Right.
I'm making you think I'm going to take your soul. I am saying bad stuff about your mama. As a coach, I threaten my players to keep their mouths shut and beat those guys so that the refs don't penalize us.
You know what's funny is it's probably a good thing that we were never in, like, the same age bracket to play on the same team or something like that. Just because if you honestly were, like, we're a lot to handle, if you guys don't know, just by ourselves as it is. But, like, imagining us on the same team, like, at work, I talk a lot of trash. Like, and I think that my bosses think, like, oh, man, he's really serious about what he's doing. He really wants to push the work level with everybody. I was like, really? I'm just honestly mocking the people that are that, like, and they're like, come on, Line 5, we need to do better. And so I just start yelling the same, like, I'm literally just mocking them. Like, I have no intentions of wanting them to do better. Or if I get bored, I have a moment of like, why aren't you doing this? You need to go faster. And they just look at me like, man, you're real competition. Like, I literally had one of the bosses come up to me like, man, you're real competition, bro. Like, you just got this energy about you. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, I've been talking shit all day. But that's who I am. Like, in a sporting situation, I would just talk noise just to, because I know people get razzled. So when they get razzled, then they don't.
Yeah, one of two things is going to happen. If you talk trash, either the person is going to fold because they're trying too hard because you're inside their head.
Yep.
Or they're going to get better.
Right.
And it's only a small percentage of them that get better.
Right.
And if you get better because I talk trash, cool. I'll still stop you. That's my mindset anyhow.
Yeah.
Now, if I get inside your head and you start messing up, then I own you forever.
Yeah, I'm definitely steel sharpens steel type of person, meaning that I've never been beaten.
You play up to your competition?
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
I've never been the person that just flat out gives up. Even if they were faster than me, you might not be that much faster. Like, I am still within the realm of if you don't stay on yours, I'm going to catch you. And no problem.
I don't like teammates who quit on a play. I don't like players that quit on a play. When I'm coaching, I coach you to go full throttle throughout the whole thing.
Right.
And that's what my players do for me.
That's kind of hard, though, in today's world of, like, you can't get your quarterback type of deal. You know what I mean? Like, there's certain times where, like, well, it's unsportsmanlike to hit them that hard at this point because the play was almost over. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's really hard in today's world.
I didn't make a habit of getting beat or getting beat badly.
Yeah.
But I remember there were times where the referees were saying, look, there's mercy rules, and we want to implement. I was like, I don't do mercy rules. Right. We're not going to get better by you shortening the way you're going to play.
Right.
my team only gets better by executing. Right. So we need to execute. Some parents might get upset about that. Some athletes might get upset about that. But the only way we get better is by playing somebody else's best.
Right.
Now, look, if your best players are hurt, cool, I'm going to run the score. Not on purpose, just because I ain't afraid to go full throttle.
When I played hockey, I think there was a 10-point mercy rule back then. And this is a long time ago, folks. Like, I only played hockey one season. But I remember, like, I used to listen to my cousins talk about, like, oh, yeah, we beat them. They stopped the game, like, 11-1 or whatever. Because, they didn't want you to feel bad. But as I've said before, in anything, like, I'm more mad that you stopped it. I'd much rather know that I continued to fight.
I want to be able to stop you. Yeah. When I was in middle school, we played baseball, and a team went up. I think they scored like 8 runs on us in an inning. Yeah. And then they flipped sides, and we only had gotten 1 out. I was so pissed off. I'm like, we are that much of losers. That's what you think of us? That we're not going to be able to get this straight and get the 2 more outs that we need? Oh, I was so heated. I hated that. I'm like, I don't care if they score 50 in this inning. It's up to us to stop them.
Yeah, the logic is, for me, it's if they could do it, I can do it. Yeah.
Exactly. They light us up, we'll light them up next.
When in my high school, we weren't known. At the time, my class changed the reputation of what we had. In my high school, before I got to high school, we had a reputation of, like, we were the gimme team. Like, when you played us, it was the gimme win. It was what it was. When I came in as a freshman, a lot of the teams that had been beating us for 10, 15 years prior to that, we started changing that. We started winning again. We started, after I graduated, as my senior year came about, we became the team that's like, okay, they're contenders. We got new coaches, built up a whole new system. But nonetheless, the thing about it was, like, a lot of people were shocked when we started winning like that. They were like, how did it happen? But what happened was a lot of our players stuck together throughout that time, and then it became part of the system. What we want to do, get you from freshman, and we're going to try and keep you as much as we can going throughout the system. When you become JV, varsity, it's the same system. And, yeah, definitely that whole, getting beat, and, like, in the beginning, when we went to the camps, that's where I was going with that. When we went to the camps, what happened was the teams knew that we weren't going to beat them, but they did know we played them, meaning that our coaches, the difference about our system was our coaches ran us till we were dog tired and even past that. So our conditioning is what kept us into the point of winning. We got over conditioned and we hit people hard, and that was pretty much how we started winning. Our coach that we got at that time came from Texas, and his college team that he had just got through coaching was like a hard-hitting team on offense and defense. And so he came and changed the whole system for us, and that's what happened. Like, we became that team of, like, no, we don't get tired. We play for 6 quarters, and we do this.
It's funny that you say that. That's my style of coaching. I condition. When I start my players in any practice, I run them at the beginning of practice.
Right.
That way, by the time they're doing their drills and competing against each other, they're already tired if they were going to be tired.
Right.
And then I hold a certain level of expectation of execution there.
Right.
Versus other coaches who are going to run them afterwards, and the kids are going to be, the players are going to be dragging their feet. No. I run you at first.
Right.
And then at the end, I'll still run you 1 or 2 more laps.
I think
just to show you that's our pattern.
Yeah.
Well, you saying what you just said reminded me of something I saw of Jimmy Johnson. Jimmy Johnson's giving a speech saying something to the effect of the difference in his teams and other teams was the conditioning. By having conditioned teams, you were never going to be looked at as a loser. Because the time that you lose the fight is because you're too exhausted to fight.
Right.
So his teams were so well conditioned that at the end of the game, they're not bent over huffing and puffing.
Right.
Because of that, they were playing just as hard. And that was the same mindset that I took when I was coaching. I told the players, I'm going to run you. I'm going to run you some more. And the reason I'm going to run you is because by the fourth quarter, you're going to see how you're looking, and you're going to see how they're looking.
Right. I actually think that helps with your muscle memory too, though.
It does.
Like if when you're fully aware, you're able to do the full motion because you're fully aware. But when you're dog tired and you're trying to learn it, and all you're thinking is like, I need to breathe, I need a drink of water.
Yeah, you're more concerned on those aspects than you are on the execution.
Right. But if you can get it down in that moment, when you are in that moment of being dogged out, guess what? Your form is perfect. You're not jumping off the line. You're not doing the little mistakes that get you hurt in the game because...
My players were much more tired at our practices than they were in any game,
right.
Even if they were going both ways. And that's at any level. When I'm coaching high school, when I'm coaching middle school, when I'm coaching elementary, either way it went, those players, they weren't going to be tired in the game.
Right.
I've heard some coaches say, and I disagreed with them, they said something to the effect of, whenever you're falling dead tired at the end of the game, that's when it shows you gave it your all.
Right.
To me, that's when it shows that you weren't prepared.
Yes.
That's my mindset.
I can see that. So when I was doing martial arts, we spent good half hour. Like the class was like 45 minutes for the most part, maybe an hour if it ran over. But it was a 45-minute class. And we spent 30 minutes just doing warm-ups before we even got to throwing kicks or punches.
Yeah.
And it used to piss me off. But it made sense in the sense that, like, one, you don't want to hurt yourself because you're not warmed up properly. Two, as we were just saying, you might be exhausted and you're just thinking, I need to breathe. Very much, at least in my school, it was very much, no matter how tired you are, no matter how many opponents you're fighting, the idea is to continue to fight all the way. There's always something you can do to better yourself, to get out of the situation. And so, that's a learning experience that you can only learn if someone
having done that.
Yeah.
That's why my kids, whenever they were in martial arts, I told them, you never know when you're going to fight.
Right.
You might be walking home from school from basketball practice and be dead tired. And then that's when someone tries to fight you.
Yeah.
So just because you're tired doesn't mean you shouldn't go to karate practice.
Right.
It doesn't mean you shouldn't go practice your taekwondo. You go into 3 back-to-back sessions only makes you better because that's more of a realistic setting. You're not always going to get into a fight when you're at your peak condition.
Right.
Oh, I already stretched. I'm good to go.
Right.
No, you don't know when someone's going to attack you.
You know what's funny is the karate gis, they're often loose and baggy, so that way you can throw kicks and whatever. And sometimes like in my experiences in life, I was like, sometimes my pants are kind of tight. I really don't have that full range. I've ripped my pants a few times, doing things. But I was like, you know what? I'd rather have ripped pants than getting my ass kicked. So
definitely. But yeah, so when you were saying what you were saying about your football experiences, understand that that's what Jimmy did.
Yeah.
He worked on that conditioning. That's
Hall of Famer. Don't forget Hall of Famer.
Hall of Famer Jimmy Johnson. Not that race car driver Jimmy Johnson. No, and that was, I hadn't seen that speech from him where he was talking about that before today, actually. And it was just funny because I didn't even realize that he was a psychology major in college as well.
Right.
I was like, no wonder we're so similar in our methodology.
Right.
I thought it was more because, hey, I grew up watching you coach, but it wasn't necessarily that. All right, I think we should go ahead and wrap up now, bro.
Right.
We'll get into the running backs next week. We'll get into the FS or BS next week.
Yeah, we didn't do FS or BS this week. We know you love that part, but we gave it a week off. We'll be back. One thing to look forward to next week, we'll talk about Jake Paul versus T. Woodley because that fight's coming up. But in the meantime, if you want to get a hold of us, you can follow us on Twitter I am on Twitter and Instagram at SleepyJ, SLEEP_E_J.
I'm at Rudy V 1982 on Twitter. And if you want any feedback on thoughts that you have, hey, write us a tweet. I'll be sure to piss you off on Twitter as well.
Send us tweets. If you are listening on Apple Podcasts, please rate and review us on there. If you're listening to us on YouTube, leave comments on there if you want us to respond to them or bring them up in the next topics.
Or if you're wanting to insult us.
Yeah, we're game for whatever you guys are wanting to do. Also, just for future references, I know we've mentioned we have the YouTube channel. My goal is to get us back on there with video, but I think I want to get another camera so that way we can both be on and it's done right. Obviously, COVID and things like that, we do have some space between us, and so I kind of want to set that up. But in the meantime, continue to listen, please. Continue to share, tell everyone about the podcast if you like what we're doing. If you don't, still tell people to listen to us. Maybe they'll like us.
Or tell them, hey, you should listen to how awful these guys are.
That's a good
But listen all the way through.
Until next time, guys, take it easy. I'm out.
Deuces.